These are the things that we need for the future. We need, of course, maybe Mr. Musk is right that we should go to Mars, or we improve what we have. But as Greta said, we don't have a planet B. And I like this.
Yeah, I also love this.
We don't have a planet B.
Yeah.
So we better start thinking and improving.
He deals the cards as a meditation, and those he plays never suspect. He doesn't play for the money.
Buongiorno, first of all.
Buongiorno.
Come
Kalimera.
stai? Come stai? Kalimera.
Πολύ καλά. Πολύ ωραία.
What brings you in Cyprus, Mr. Costa?
Oh, I've been in Cyprus for 30 years now.
30 years?
Yeah.
You've been visiting every year, per
Not
se?
every year. I have the great honor. I'm a doctor as a background. Now I'm retired. I'm 69, so I'm retired. But
In what area?
in cancer, in breast cancer.
Okay. You've been doing surgeries,
Yes,
research? Okay.
yes. I was a surgeon. I've been a surgeon for 40 years. And I had the honor to be called at the time when the Bank of Cyprus decided to build the oncology center.
Yeah. That was like 15 years ago?
Oh, more.
More, 20?
More, probably 25.
They are doing a fantastic work.
I met the chair, the famous Mr. Triandafilidis, who was the president at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, Cyprus doesn't have a cancer center. And before I die, I want to do something for this. He was a great man. So he called me for surgery, a British guy for radiation therapy, a German guy, and then we act as advisors, and the institute came out, and it's one of the most efficient in Europe now.
Yeah, and they're giving back to the society because the thing with the cancer and all the stuff, it's something that it's very sensitive, especially when you're dealing with children.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, but also this is an evolution of medicine. In the past, there was no separate knowledge of cancer, which we call oncology, right? So students were studying gastric cancer with surgery, uterine cancer with gynecology, but not cancer per se. So this came later, came in the 70s. And then people started to think we need doctors dedicated to this. And this is the concept of the Oncology Center, Oncology Institute. And in Cyprus, this was missing. And in fairness, now it's very stabilized and they collaborate with everybody, with the Nicosia General Hospital, with the Limassol Center. So Paphos and everything is now organized. And there are movement of ex-patients like Europa Donna. You may have heard of Europa Donna.
Yeah, every October,
Bravo.
is it? Yeah.
Yeah. They have the pink house and then keep company and they support women who had breast cancer.
Which part of Italy are you from?
I'm originally, and it's important for what we discuss later, from a small area called Valle d'Aosta, which is at the border with France.
Okay.
We have the Mont Blanc, the tunnel, and this part is Italy and the other side is France. But then I moved to Milan and I done all my studies and my work in Milan.
Right after the borders is the highway leading to Milan?
Yes.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah.
I visited like 10 years ago an Italian village called Rovereto.
But Rovereto is the east part.
Yeah.
When you go to Venice,
Yeah,
you go to Trento and you see Rovereto.
Yeah, I passed not through from Milan.
They have an incredible museum of art in Rovereto.
I've been there for business. Even though
you
I was
didn't stop. Okay.
No, I didn't stop. I was doing pit stops outside Milan, and then I ended up in Rovereto, and it was exactly as I imagined to be, an Italian village coming out from Italian movies. Yeah. I went to see a pizza vending machine.
Okay.
But anyway, that's a different story.
Yeah.
So, like I said, what brings you in Cyprus every year by year, other than your field of work?
Oh, well, I love Cyprus. My children grown up, I still have pictures of them on the shores and the beach in
How many kids do you have?
Limassol. This is complicated.
Okay, okay.
I have
Let's say some.
5 children and 3 moms. So it's... But the last 2 children, they are now 21 and 20. They literally grown up a lot in Cyprus. They started to swim in Anassas, in Paphos. And then we were coming during, and I was working at the center and they were enjoying. So it's a link, I was lucky enough, I'd done classical studies. So I studied Greek. So at least I can read.
Yeah.
I can't speak. I understand many words. And then when I retired, I discovered this problem of wool because it's in my country, in my town.
What's the problem about wool?
Wool was the main source of economy for 3 centuries, 300 years they started. And then slowly the rich people starting to buy cashmere from New Zealand, from Australia. The non-rich people started to go to Zara and buy synthetic fibers and buy a jumper for 15 euro, and nobody wanted wool anymore.
Is it expensive to be used as a raw material?
Wool requires, wool, I discovered, wool is a culture, it's complex and require, which is probably what people didn't want to do anymore, but now we are reconsidering. We are reconsidering many things about environment, as you know. Wool requires the passion for the sheep, but it's a hard work. It's much easier to set up a factory, do the synthetic fabrics, and do jumpers like this. The sheep, the lamb, and then shearing, which is the word for cutting the wool, no?
Does it have to be done by hand, or
yes.
do we have machines that...
No. It has to be done by hand, which
so you
is
need
the
labor.
problem.
Yeah.
You need labor, and this also, as a knowledge, has disappeared. Even in Cyprus, you call people from Australia sometimes to help, because there, Australia, New Zealand has kept wool as an important economic part of their... And here in Europe, we slowly forgot, and we are interested in sheep only for meat and milk.
Yeah, that's a perception.
That's a perception. So I discovered again Cyprus because Cyprus is a perfect laboratory of pilot experiments if we want to go back to wool. Because you will need more and more sheep, because you need more milk, because everybody wants halloumi. You know, everywhere in London in the restaurant, first of all, they ask for halloumi. So you need more milk, you need more sheep. But you need also more grass, because otherwise what do they eat?
Yeah.
And also you need to decide what to do with the wool, because the wool is something inevitable. Every sheep produces 1.5 kilo of wool every year. And you cannot leave it on because they suffocate. It's too hot.
Yeah, and it covers their eyes and stuff.
Covers the eyes, they cannot eat. So every year, and now it's April, that's why we decided the 9th of April will be the first European Wool Day, because we want to increase awareness on this problem and say, guys, if we want to continue to have wonderful lamb in restaurants and wonderful halloumi, we have to sort out the problem of wool. I went yesterday to visit the Ministry of Agriculture Research Institute. It's a beautiful farm for the ministry, from the ministry. And they still have the wool of 2020 and the wool of 2019.
And it's sitting there?
sitting there because it is forbidden. Unfortunately, many people in Europe now, they burn the wool during the night because it's forbidden, but they don't know what to do with the wool. So the ministry, of course, doesn't burn the wool, but they are stocking, and there are all these, I saw yesterday more than 300 kilos of wool from the last, and this is why I would like to contribute. We have established a new foundation called E151. Maybe you know in English, E151 means the female, the mother of the lamb, the wife of the ram.
It's the first time I ever
Exactly. Very few people. Sheep is a general term including
E-W-E.
E-W-E, the U. In Ireland, there are all the jokes. They say, how are you? And they write you. Because in Ireland, there are sheep everywhere, as you know. So I saw you. The male is the ram and the baby is the lamb. And the U came to my mind. We were discussing with friends, could be also an acronym. So we decided to call European Wool Exchange. And now the U Foundation is based in Nicosia. The authorities recognized us as a charity, so donations are tax deductible. And we want basically to experiment here the perfect situation in Cyprus, how we can learn to use again the wool.
Okay.
And you can do a lot of things. For example, tomorrow we will show how wool, for example, can be a great fertilizer. If you take the wool that you cannot use, you don't want to use for jumpers because it's too rough, for example, or the wool of the legs that you cannot use. You press and you do small cylinder of wool, and this you put it in a glass with some water, and you will see how much water it absorbs. If you put this in the ground of your garden, this will keep humidity and give you excellent salad or beautiful flowers for a long time because it keeps the water.
So is it something that every household can do?
Well, it is one of the options to start seeing. Another thing you can do with wool is insulation. Yeah. Put the wool between the walls when you build the house, and this will keep the house warm if you have the heating, or fresh if you need less air conditioning if you have wool in the walls. So
they can act as insulators.
But the best thing would be really, and this is what we will experiment with the Ministry of Agriculture, is to do artisan thing for tourists, for example. You know, you can do felting. Felting means that you take the wool, put with water and soap, and then you can do carpet. You can do
sponges, maybe.
Sponges. You can. Sponges actually is very important. Sponges. Wool is the only material that can absorb oil from the surface of the sea. When there is a ship, oil that loses oil, or
some sort of leak or from a gas tank,
and you want to
something.
be sure that you want a perfect sea to swim in front of your hotel, the ideal would be to clean with big sponges of wool. They make big sponges. But also doing felting and doing slippers, babuchas, in wool. Of course, maybe for Cyprus is too small to have a proper textile industry. So, but at least we could, I say we because I feel part of this community, learn at least how to sort, select, because you have very nice wool. The sheep here are very nice. Select, wash, and then sell to other countries or do some material
Some products maybe.
from products for the tourists and also for the population, because we, as I said, we will have to decide. I'm nearly 70, so it's not my problem. I would say ciao. But you are young, and your children are even younger. So if we could, there are 100 million sheep in the EU. 100 million. Per multiply for 1.5 kilo, every year there are 150 million kilos of wool. What do we do with this? It will become a serious stuff. So
what do they actually do at the present moment? They burn it? Do they burn it now?
Well, apparently, the British and the Spanish are still doing very well, and they do, you know, the famous wool, the merino wool in Spanish. It's really beautiful to have a jumper, a sweater in merino wool. The Austrian do the jacket and the coats in wool.
Maybe we can export them.
And the British, and the British.
I mean, from Cyprus, we can export. If we don't want to do the products, or we don't have the labor or the know-how, we can export.
You can export
what
the
we
wool.
Produce in terms of wool.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yes. And the others, a good part of this wool goes to India and China. What's new? And they do carpet, and then they send them back.
Yeah, they do everything.
They
made
sell
in China.
And they sell to us made in China. So at least this we should stop, and we should do our own carpet. And then probably 25% is burned or hidden in the earth, which is a damage for nature. And anyway,
without being processed, you mean? It has to be processed.
As it is. Well, it should be at least
regulated,
separated. It is regulated. Unfortunately, it is. The EU now has decided to accept that wool is waste.
So do they pass laws against?
So wool? Now even Cyprus has passed the law that it's prohibited to burn and to hide wool.
Do you have data how many kilos of wool we produce here in Cyprus?
Yeah, you have 300,000 sheep, so you have 450,000 kilos of wool every year.
That's a lot.
Of course, it's a lot.
I mean, is there a price per kilo or per ton?
Poor breeders, I think we must say something, because the breeders, of course, they breed for milk, as I said, and for meat. But they would like to get some money also for the wool, from the wool. And the wool, until still 4 or 5 years ago, was 20 cents per kilo, which is nothing if you think that to shear a sheep costs €2.50. So if a breeder has 200 sheep, he has to shear them in April because it's too hot. Anyway,
yeah, it's inevitable.
It's inevitable. So 200, he spends already €5,000 just to shear. Then he has the wool. And then what they offer now, this year they say they offer 5 cents per kilo.
5 cents?
5 cents.
It dropped down? Why?
It's impossible. But because, it's difficult to...
Lack of demand, maybe?
Lack of demand. Wool is now only 1% of clothes.
Yeah, but if you create that demand...
Yes. And what we are doing is, for example, promoting knitting. Knitting, as I'm a doctor, I started this because I remember that women who came to hospital and they brought their own knitting thing, and they were calmer. They were more... Knitting is something similar to yoga.
Yeah,
we have done studies. We have done studies with electroencephalograms, I don't know how you say in English, but measuring the state of mind before and after a session of knitting.
It's a Greek word. It's a Greek word, actually. I mean, it's like
Enkephalos, yes.
Yeah.
Enkephalos is brain, yeah. Encephalogramma is measuring the brain activity. And you have these results which are really similar to yoga or to, you remember the transcendental meditation of the Beatles?
Yeah.
Maharishi?
yeah.
If you do 20 minutes of transcendental meditation, you get a situation in the brain which is the same that people, mostly women, get when they knit.
Yeah.
The difference is that at the end of knitting, you have something. You have a hat, you have a scarf. At the end of the transcendental meditation, you have nothing. You're okay, but you have nothing for the others. So we started this circular economy where we want to absorb more wool, pay something to the breeders, they deserve that, and then promote knitting and activities with wool because they are good for the mind and they are also good for not burning the wool anymore. We shouldn't.
Did you find any support from the authorities here in Cyprus?
Yes, personally.
What did they say?
Minister Kadis, in fairness, has been the one who encouraged me. Maybe I shouldn't name politicians because you have the elections, right?
Yeah, but it's an uncensored channel. You can say whatever you want.
I'm joking. And he's the minister. He's the Minister of Agriculture of the Republic. And he called me and I went to his office and he called all the advisors. And he is the one, in fairness, who encouraged me. And also, it happens that the European Commissioner for Health is Cypriot, is Mrs. Stella Kyriakidis. And she also encouraged me to continue this use of wool for health, which is a new market, quote unquote.
Okay.
Wool for health is something that is starting now. Therapeutic use of wool. And this could expand the capability of the society to reabsorb the wool rather than throwing it. So we will promote this. The 9th of April, we will have 6-hour marathon on Facebook, on our website, website, and people who are interested can see. We have given 10 minutes to every country. So it's amazing what they do up at the Faroe Island or in Sweden, Norway, and down to Cyprus. We will broadcast also from here, showing, and people can just follow and start to be aware. You know, I feel a bit sometimes uncomfortable because people can say, oh my God, with all the problems we have, certainly wool is not a priority. Particularly now, everybody's talking only of COVID.
Plastic and paper recycling wasn't a priority 10 years ago.
Yeah, but then they succeeded and we
abolished
better.
The usage of plastic bags. When was that? 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
Yeah, we used to buy them.
Sure.
And then they started charging plastic bags. I mean, whenever you went to the supermarket. And now everybody, in a year's time, they are aware that if I want to go to the supermarket to buy groceries, I'm going to have to pick up my paper. Yeah, your own bag. I mean, it can be done quicker than some might think, as long as the state or the government or the laws or the media communicate it properly.
Yes.
And correctly.
But things like what you're doing today, and I really thank you for giving me the opportunity to explain this, are also very important because the states arrive later, always. There is an awareness that comes from the ordinary people.
Yeah, that have a vision.
And then the politicians can listen and
say, then the business people.
And the business people.
See the opportunity.
Of course. We really hope that the fact that if we succeed to do products with Cypriot wool, it will be nice for the tourism, and also for the alumi industry, because this will help to increase the number of sheep.
Not only that, reduce their costs maybe.
Maybe reduce their cost. It's also, again, for the medical point of view, it's very interesting how knitting is a manual complex. You have to count and you have to move the hands. It's a brain-hand mechanism. We are discovering, because of the lockdown, people were desperate and say, I have to stay home, give me something to do. And many people, also men, started to challenge this knitting story. There are preliminary studies that you can delay Parkinson, for example.
Alzheimer, maybe?
Alzheimer.
Yeah.
And exactly. So we have to be creative, and we have to be, but it's a challenge to our society. Wool is a challenge. It's the typical example of something that we have done for years and years for money reason, and now we cannot postpone anymore.
Do you have any assistant in your project? Do you have people around you, teams that help you?
Oh, yes, of course. Imagine,
do you want to name them? Do you want to give them credit?
Well, I'm very credit to Isabella Cailido, because she is Isabella, which is very Italian name. Isabella.
I think she speaks Italian. Yeah?
Yes, she graduated in Ancona.
Yeah. She's an associate of ours. She's a very talented, very skillful, very experienced.
Absolutely.
Business and marketing and stuff.
Now visiting breeders because to prepare the 9th of April day. I also need to credit Hellenic Bank. In fairness, they were supporting. They were the first supporter. I mentioned the minister. I mentioned Mrs. Agipavlou, Georgia Agipavlou. She is the bride director of the research institute at the agriculture farm, minister farm. So there are a lot of people. Of course, I got support from the Italian embassy. The wife of the ambassador is a very fond knitter, so she was delighted, and we are exchanging wool now between Cyprus and Italy. So I think that there are all the conditions, and it's nice that the basis of the European Foundation is here. These things are always in Switzerland or in Germany. For once, the European Foundation for Wool is in Nicosia, and I'm very happy. I feel proud.
Are there any funds that can support your cause?
Well, we have basically 3 sources. One will be, I say will be because we really just started. We hope to have, of course, sponsors, and I hope that we have some promises from the alumi producer, for example. Then we expect some private donation. Imagine that even...
they can use it as part of their CSR, maybe.
It's tax deductible because we are a charity registered with the authorities. So
an NGO, right?
An NGO, yeah. So CSR as for the companies, private people, even giving, I don't know...
Donations.
100 euro are already a lot of wool that we can, as you make the calculation.
It's simply...
if we could give at least 20 cents.
You said 2.5 euros cost to shear a ship.
Exactly.
So 100 euros, it's like 50 ships.
Exactly.
Like,
bravo.
No, 50, was it?
Yep.
40. 40.
2.5.
2.5. Yeah, 40.
40. Yeah. 100 euro, 40 ships.
Is it per month? 1 shear per month? Or is it done by per year?
No, they do in a day. They shear 100 sheep.
I mean,
once a year.
Yeah, once a year.
Once a year. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There are very few breeds, type of sheep that they make so much wool that you can shear twice a year. But normally once a year it's enough. And even we have too much wool, so.
To be honest, I do have in mind the sheep that I used to frequently see in England. The mainstream ones, the ones that are put on fairy tales.
Yes.
But I assume that's not the case. I mean,
thank you.
Wool, sheep wool is the one that drops down and it's like hair, right? It's not the one that it's like, I don't know, fluffish and...
Fluffy, like this. No. You have the ewe, and the ewe has all the wool growing like our hair, but very few genetically predisposed breeds have the wool falling spontaneously. All the others you have to actively cut, and it's called shearing. And there is an art in shearing, but it takes a few minutes. You should see. They take the sheep from the legs,
yeah,
and
I've seen
it's
a
done.
couple of videos. It's stress relieving when you watch people shearing a sheep. Huh? Am I right? And I was always wondering, okay, I knew that they were producing clothing and stuff, but I didn't know that there was so much waste on wool.
Because if you want to do it well, you should clean the floor, you should separate and shear the long wool from the back.
Does
and
it have
separate.
to pass from filtering, washing? No?
After, yes. If you want to use, it has to be washed. This is EU law.
Yeah, because they carry mosquitoes, bacteria and stuff.
Yes.
Parasites.
Parasites, and also you don't know, sometimes there is pieces of dust, a lot of dust, because it doesn't rain. Not in England, that they are washed. They do a shower every day, poor British sheep. But in Cyprus, they may stay 1 month without water, so without rain.
Isn't it, for a sheep in Cyprus, quite tough to carry so much wool under our climate conditions?
Well, this is why this is the time to shear them, because until March they cope well. It's still fresh enough. And now I see that mostly at the end of April, at the latest, they shear the sheep.
All the shearing is done.
Yeah. So all the animals will be fresh during the summer. New. Have no wool on them during the summer.
So do you want to provide any specific details in regards to the event? Where is it going to take place? Where can someone come in contact with you? Is it open to the public?
Unfortunately, April has been prolonged, the lockdown all over Europe. So this year is the first time that we do it, and we can do it only online.
Only online.
So our website is u.network.
Okay.
And if you go into u.network, you will see the description of the things I said. And also on the 9th of April at 11 in the morning Cyprus time, because it's 10 Central European time, it will start, and you can follow. The program will be published the 1st of April, because tomorrow is the deadline. Everybody who wants to show something can write to us until the 31st of March, which is tomorrow.
Great.
And then the 1st of April, the committee will select, and we will broadcast actually from a place called Riverland.
I know that place.
Oh, you know that?
Yeah, I've been visiting with my family and the kids. It's a lovely place. And the team
they
here.
Host us for free. They were so good and generous and say, come here with broadcast.
What's the guy's name? I forgot. Fitos? Is it Marius?
I don't remember.
Do you remember his name, Dima? It's a lovely place to visit. They have all that exhibition stuff with the animals. I'm very curious.
I'm very happy.
You haven't been there?
No, I saw the website, and that's why I'm here.
It's great.
Now, tomorrow I go, and
I'll show you a video later on, because, was it last year? Yeah, last year. Yeah, we visited as a company Riverland, and we did a workshop there.
Very good.
And the guy did a showcase of the farm, the inspiration, the vision, the mission, the procedures.
They were the first accepting the concept and they would like to
It's
work.
quite popular here in
Really?
Casillas.
Good.
Yeah, Riverland. It's called Riverland Biofarm.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And they do have a lot of sheep. I mean, a lot, like 100.
100 is enough.
And
100 is enough
You
to
will
start
love the
doing.
place there. It's relieving. It's outside the city. There's a lake there,
Yes, I
Yeah.
saw
full
from
of
the
water,
website.
trees.
Trees.
You can hear they have horses, rabbits, donkeys, sheep.
Very good. So it's a perfect place for us.
Yeah, and they do host. They used to when everything was open. People. They have playgrounds. They
an
have a
agri-tourism.
cafeteria. Yeah.
Very good.
And they have even 2 small houses where you can stay there for night.
You will love it, Alberto Costa.
A lot of birthday
These are the
parties,
things
so-
that we need for the future. We need, of course, maybe Mr. Musk is right that we should go to Mars, or we improve what we have. But as Greta said, we don't have a planet B. And I like this.
Yeah, I also
We
love
don't
this.
have
Yeah.
we don't have a planet B.
Yeah.
So we better start thinking and improving.
So how do you cope with this aside that? How do you cope with all the pandemic stuff, COVID? I mean, as I remember, as you recall, Italy was the center of...
Oh, yes. Everything started from an engineer coming back
from a football game.
and then the football game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are things in Italy
San
right now
Siro.
with COVID?
Now we are struggling a little bit, but I was reading the newspaper this morning that finally yesterday they managed to vaccine nearly 500,000 people in one day, which is the goal that we have if we want to have a normal summer.
Yeah.
We have to keep going with 500,000 vaccination a day. We were all very impressed by what Greece did, for example, much better than us. They started to use the QR code already last year so they can follow the tourists. And they, as you probably know, from the 15th of May, they will open because vaccine will be available in pharmacies.
Italy was unlucky. There
Italy
had
was
to
unlucky.
be like a single country that will get devastated.
The test.
Yeah, and that was Italy.
Yeah.
And the circumstances helped. The football game and the stuff, it led to spreading the disease all
virus,
over Italy. Yeah.
And then people understood what
And
was
the people used Italy as
Yeah.
a bad example to avoid
Yeah,
a lot of casualties.
yeah. And it's interesting how countries are a bit like people, because you see Italy did that, then we reacted in a very Italian way, romantic, and we would
On the
manage
balcony,
on the balcony,
singing,
singing
yeah.
and so on. The British typically say, "Oh no, we don't
Ignore.
care, ignore,
Yeah, snobbish.
and then disaster, and then now the best again. 40 million people already vaccinated.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how, and I know there is a lot of discussion on vaccine. There are people who disagree. I have a son who disagree with vaccination, but
You're a doctor. What's your opinion on that? My personal opinion is that medicine and stuff, it's what brought us to prosperity in terms of health. So do I have another option? I think I don't. So why not trust modern medicine?
you probably seen the interview with the Pope. I like this Pope. I'm not Catholic, but I like this Pope. But in fairness, he made a bit of a gaffe the other day because he said,
Pray.
God give us the vaccine, meaning, thank God we have a vaccine. And the journalist said, I'm sorry, God gave us the COVID. We discovered the vaccine.
That was
And
nice.
poor Pope Francesco said, oh, maybe you're right, I'm sorry.
But anyways, it's a situation that it would change a lot of stuff on how we see the world. What taught us is that we are not living in different countries or different planets when it comes to problems. When a problem occurs, it's a problem for all of us.
Global.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that brings us to
shows that
the wool thing and how we can...
There is nothing more that can be localized. Actually, it shows it's a good lesson for us, for the Western world, because in some way, the SARS was very similar, not as big, but similar. But it's interesting, since it was in Africa or Ebola, the other infection, yes, people say, oh, poverini, poor people, they had this, but, you know, basically, who cares? COVID was in New York, in London, in Paris, and then
in Nicosia,
in Nicosia,
in Milan.
So people say, hey, hold on,
it's here.
Not nice to have a pandemic. And
it gave us perspective, maybe. It's what you said. We used to heard about Ebola and everything in as if it was in another planet. But
that's what I'm saying, yeah.
When we met COVID, it like in a way made us think that we are not any different than them.
No.
Maybe we have the technology, maybe we have the ability to communicate, to respond quicker, but at the same time, we can spread it faster than them.
Because we travel a lot, and it's also, I must say, is giving us also a bit more disciplines.
Especially
so
when it comes
pleasant.
to health matters.
I came yesterday and it was so perfect. Going out of the plane, now you have to wait row by row and the hostess call. You remember going out of the plane with
everybody was rushing to go get the luggage
and got to calm down and be a bit more disciplined.
Not only that,
the airport was very well organized.
What about right after you finish with the
where do we go?
The toilet. You need to wash your hands. You need to clean everything.
Shall we go back to as we were before?
We're gonna carry that behavior for like 10 years. The thing is to take advantage of the situation and like build not a culture, a proper behavior on how to be hygiene positive.
What we Italians will miss is hugging. We are not used to that. That was also the problem. In our culture, it was impossible to say. The concept of keep 1.5 meter distance is against our genes.
Not for the British though.
I know. I have an Irish wife, and the first time I went to Dublin to meet the family, I acted as an Italian and said, this is my brother. Oh,
kisses.
Hi, Tony.
Hugs and kisses.
And Tony retracted immediately because they don't touch each other. So for them, probably the lockdown was easier. But for us, it was a disaster. Yeah, and going back to sheep, I heard that there are farms who are opening now, so kids and children, at least they can hug the sheep.
Yeah.
Not to forget what is hugging, because otherwise we keep the distance, and it's a pity. But
Mr. Alberto Costa, it was a different kind of talk today for us. I really appreciated the fact that you visited our studio. I'm gonna take with me all the things you've said, all the information, all the new knowledge, and I wish for you to accomplish what you started with all that wool thing. And whenever you need something, you know that you have another friend here in Cyprus to call.
Caristopoli, that's very kind.
How do you say in Italian? Thank you, grazie.
Grazie mille.
Okay.
Caristò, thanking. Poli, molto. Grazie molto.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Help me out, don't let me